All right, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
So I'm happy to be here today. I'm Tracy Tommy. I'm the president and CEO here at the Dayton Society of Natural History. We're here with Larry Connor from the Connor Group. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
All right, so a couple of things, a little background. We have Taylor, normally see Taylor as part of our production. She is working diligently, but we can't see her today. This is not the first vlog we've done. We've done these now since January, but starting out with Buzz Carpenter, who's a test pilot, SR-71 guy. So we figured he was good for our tester. And then we've talked to folks from like the Human Performance Space Wing over at Wright Pat.
Yep.
We've talked to some NASA engineers. We even talked to a high school student who wants to be an astronaut one day. So you're not
a worthy endeavor.
You're not too far from him, I guess, right? You're just a
A
little closer
bit.
to the trip.
Yeah.
And then, and so we're here today actually with a few live audience members in the beautiful Carol D. Phillips Planetarium here at the Boonshock Museum of Discovery in Dayton. And we're going to just talk to you a little bit about these upcoming adventures. So you've done some things in your days. You have rafted some rivers and climbed mountains and gone to the bottom of the ocean and raced cars and done all kinds of great adventures. Next is space. So can you tell us, why is this a big deal that you're going on this trip, and how is this different from some of the others that we've just seen recently on commercial spaceflight?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So my journey really started 7 or 8 years ago. I've always been interested in space and started thinking about, after I read about an American who went to Russia and went on the Soyuz.
Yep.
Hey, is that possible here in the United States? And so here we are 7 years later to do what's called the AX-1 mission, which will be the first mission of all private citizens that are going to go to the International Space Station. Scheduled to go in January or February. And if you said, well, why? Good question. I think probably multiple reasons.
Okay.
Number one is the challenge.
Yeah.
Because we are going to truly train to the professional astronaut standards. Not easy to do, but not impossible. 2, obviously, the adventure. And 3, groundbreaking research. We have relationships with both Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, and we're going to be conducting what we believe will be really worthwhile experiments while we're at the ISS, which we'll be at for 8 days.
So this is not just a thrill ride. This is
No.
a little deeper
This is
than
not,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be very, very clear. This is not a thrill ride. This is not space tourism. Hey, if people want to do that, it's fine. And obviously with the events of the last couple of weeks, I've had people ask me. So here's the analogy that I would draw.
Okay.
If you look at, let's say, Blue Origin that happened, what was that, last week? Those people trained for 1 day.
Okay.
We're training for 5.5 months. They're going to be in space less than 10 minutes. We will be in space for 10 days.
So it's about 2 days up, 8 days on the station.
Yeah, it's a day up.
Day up, okay.
Depending upon where the International Space Station is positioned.
Okay.
You have to essentially chase the station.
Sure.
You know, it's can be in different positions. It's generally going to be somewhere between 8 hours and 20 hours. And then,
Okay.
8 days there and then 1 day back down.
Which part are you most interested in experiencing, going up or the coming down?
Well, I think that's a good question, but I think each will be a unique experience
I
and
think
some
so.
challenges.
Yeah.
We've been training both in California and in Houston.
Okay.
I'm the pilot.
Right.
And the commander, and so if you think about it in terms of aviation terms, he's the commander is really the chief pilot,
Okay.
what we call PIC, pilot in command, and I'm really the second in command. But there's a lot of things to do and to make sure we get right on the launch and going to the ISS. And then on the ISS is all the experiments, plus probably a pretty cool view of Earth.
I hope so, yeah.
And then the re-entry and splashdown someplace, either in the Atlantic or Gulf of Mexico.
Okay. All right, well, that all sounds very interesting. And just to put it in a little perspective for our viewers, so Virgin Galactic, on their last flight, they went up about 53 miles. And Blue Origin went up about 66 miles. And you're going to be somewhere around the 250 miles.
That would be accurate.
So that's kind of a much bigger challenge for
It's just completely, again,
astronauts and spacecraft.
Hey, great for Virgin, great for Blue Origin, but this is a totally different mission. I would say ours is a mission with real outcomes. Theirs is a short flight into space.
Sure, which we need all of those, right? What we're looking at is really encouraging the next generation of adventure and research and STEM focused children, people who want to get really into the science, the technology, the engineering, and the math to be able to move America forward, which clearly you are a great example of being able to do that. And I think you invest in the community as well to promote that same drive for the next generation.
Sure. So our view is that NASA's done a tremendous job.
Sure.
But if you really want to propel forward what we believe is the next great frontier, space, obviously there's things that have been done. You need the public sector as well as the private sector. And the reality is it takes a lot of time, money, and effort to do that. So yeah, SpaceX, in my view, has done a phenomenal job. And Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, Boeing can all play a role. But there are tremendous benefits to be had with doing research in space, and it's an environment that you can't replicate on Earth. So yeah, our belief is we're making an investment in the long-term future so that 20, 30, 40 years from now, it'll be far more accessible to not only Americans, but people all around the globe. Our particular mission, we have a fellow from Israel, former fighter pilot. We have an individual from Canada. The commander, Mike Lopez Alegria, was born in Spain but raised here in the United States, multi-time astronaut. In fact, he has more EVA at spacewalk time than any other human being.
I did not know that.
That's true. And he's going to be inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame actually here in a few months in November.
Will you go?
Yes. So what our hope is that people see that this is a serious endeavor with serious responsibilities and hopefully worthwhile outcomes.
Well, in November will be during your training.
True.
Right?
Actually, yeah, that particular event, we're going to be in Germany that week, and with doing some training over there, and then come back for that, and then 10 days later we go to Japan to do training there. Keep in mind, the ISS is owned by a consortium of people. It's not just the Russians and the Americans. It's also the Japanese, the European Union. So
you got to learn all of their different modules too, right?
Well, you do. Yeah. By the way, that's very good, Tracy. You're absolutely right. That's part of the training, so that the Germans say, okay, for the EU, here's our modules, here are the protocols. Japanese, same thing, because there are dedicated ones that they have, and there's nuances that you have to learn.
So let's step back a bit and take you back to your childhood and some influences you had.
Sure.
I have heard, reading, doing some research, that maybe in K-12 grades you were not a stellar, pun intended, student.
Oh, that would be a kind way to put it, yeah.
So if I'm a child today and I'm in school and I think, I can never do anything like this, I'm not even a good student, I'm not that great. when you got into college, then you found your light bulb moment. But could you maybe, what would you say to that child
Sure.
today?
Well, first off, I would say there's probably real value in studying. And there's lots of worthwhile things to learn.
Okay.
But if by chance you're not a great student, all is not lost. And so you have to find something that resonates with you. You have to find something that you have passion around. It could be science, it could be art, it could be other things. But find something and then dedicate yourself in that worthy endeavor. Yeah, for me, I went through grade school and high school and barely got out, and then when I went to college, decided, hey, look, if you want to do something and you want to do something that matters, you probably ought to start applying yourself. And so that started the journey. And by the way, it's not a perfect journey. You're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, but we believe that you learn more from failing and making mistakes than you do doing it right. And so, yeah. And so it's overall turned out pretty well.
I would say so. I mean, I think you've done something, right?
Oh, we've done a few things.
You've
yeah.
done a few things.
And we also think, too, by the way, that if you're fortunate and you are able to accomplish some things, that you have an obligation to your community and country to give back, and we've tried to do that. You know, we've had opportunities, and we feel like an obligation to, to do that. And
Well, you talk about pay it forward, but I assume that when you're saying pay it forward, you don't mean just writing checks for big projects. I mean, how do you describe paying it forward?
Yeah, so we have a group that's called Kids and Community Partners. And so our focus is on kids, especially underserved kids, not only in the Dayton area, but that's our number one focus, but in other areas, not only in Ohio, but around the country. And so it's not only writing a check, but actually getting involved in making a difference with long-term outcomes. And that may be helping organizations, whether it's with strategic planning, business planning, recruiting, developing processes, whatever. There's lots of great organizations out there. And yeah, virtually all of them need money, but a number of them could benefit from other things.
Sure.
And so we're focused on being more than just a donor.
Sure. So let's talk about the Greater Dayton School for a minute. So that's going to be a revolutionary school, really changing the way students are taught, the environment of a school setting. Starting out at the younger grades, it'll be here in Dayton, and it's the first non-religious private school for under-resourced students.
Ever done in the state of Ohio, that's accurate.
Okay, in the state of Ohio. So will you be personally involved with those students, or with,
Sure.
getting to know them or coming to see them, or in any way?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background.
Okay.
So we got involved with DECA here locally,
Yes.
well, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years ago. They do
We love DECA.
unbelievable job, and we were very impressed, but we also saw a real need. And by the way, Dayton's not unique.
Sure.
I think every major city or every city around the country has similar needs. And so we started thinking about 5 or 6 years ago, hey, could we build a school that could really change kids' life trajectories, both socially as well as economically? And so we spent a few years researching it, and then we decided to do it, and here we are 5+ years later, and we're just now getting ready to break ground.
Right.
And we're going to do that not very far from here. And yeah, it'll go from preschool through K-8, so
Okay.
10 grades, about 400 kids. And we hope and believe that not only will it help Dayton, but it will be a national model that if you give these kids the right resources and a level playing field, they can do as well, if not better, than any other kids from any other areas.
I love it. And Dayton Early College Academy, DECA, is one of our, we love, you know, when they're a friend of ours, we love them. We work a lot with their students. When you're in space, you're planning to connect with DECA.
I am.
So what kind of message are you hoping to be able to deliver?
Well, I don't know that it's really going to be a message. So the idea is, and this is a little bit easier said than done, I'm going to do a downlink and a live discussion with DECA students and have them asking questions, and I'm going to try to field them. And so the purpose of that is hopefully to inspire maybe some kids from DECA and other places. So DECA and what they've been able to accomplish and the students there is a tremendous example about what can happen with kids who in most cases wouldn't have a great chance and wouldn't have a great opportunity to have a fulfilled life, by the way, by their own standards, not other people's standards. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing the discussion.
I think that'll be fantastic. What an opportunity too for Dayton and for DECA. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, so should be good as long as we can get all the technology to work.
It'll work. It's fine. You can get to the ISS. You can get
you can
get a Zoom link, right?
Yeah, but from what I'm being told and the little I've seen, it's a little bit easier said than done.
Sure.
Yeah, because you got to think about it's. You know, the ISS circumnavigates the globe every 92 minutes. So you got to get kind of the timing and the positioning, and it's not like you could say, hey, fire the thrusters on the ISS, we got to reposition for DECA.
I'm losing my signal.
Yeah. So.
And you're not going to run over because they'll have you highly booked while you're up there. We will be surprisingly busy with everything. I've also volunteered to be what's called a mission specialist. So the ISS, people don't realize, is a huge place. It's the size of a football field if you think about it. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And so I'm going to be doing some NASA training so that I can assist the commander who's been on the ISS multiple times in some work in repairs. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
You can see how the
I'm
duct
not sure
tape,
I'm qualified, but it'll be
tape.
interesting.
I'm sure you're qualified. So you also use the NASA mantra of failure is not an option. So when you are you're taking on an aggressive project or your experiences, how do you apply that for yourself? And then if you're talking to someone who's like, well, I wanted to do this, but it was really hard, and so I'm like stuck. How would you encourage other people to mentally push through?
Yeah, so here's how we think about it, and we think it's really mindset and culturally based. And so we have a saying on one of our walls at our office, show me somebody who's done something worthwhile, and I'll show you someone who has overcome adversity. So that's not a unique thing. If it's worthwhile, it's going to be hard by definition. The Greater Dayton School, by the way, is a great example. We had a lot of adversity and a lot of obstacles, but we simply decided when we started that endeavor that failure was not an option. We were not going to fail. And at least where we come from, if you tell us that that's impossible, we're like all in. And so I'm not saying we don't fail along the way. I'm not saying we don't make mistakes. But, you know, one of the things we've learned is you will never outperform your own self-image. So if you think you can't, well, you're right. If you think you can, you at least have a good chance to be able to do it.
I love that. So if you think you can't, you're right.
Boy, yeah.
But if you think you can, you have a chance.
Sure.
That should be.
I mean, you're already, if you don't think you can do it, or you got excuses, or this is
You
going to
already
be too
shut it
hard,
down.
well, forget it, because it probably will be difficult and it will be hard, and you've already decided that you're not going to be able to do it. So
you make it sound simple, but
yeah, it's simple to say.
It's a
very
lot
hard
of
to
work.
do.
Yeah,
It's very
a lot of
hard
work.
to do. But
Self-discipline.
it's not impossible. Again,
yeah, stick with it.
you know, it's like, hey, you got a guy from Dayton, Ohio, who's going to pilot the Crew Dragon to the International Space Station, and it's like,
of course.
is he qualified? The honest answer is probably not. But we're still going to do it, and I think we can do it, and we are very, very committed to doing it to the true professional astronaut standards.
You will be qualified before you leave.
I
feel comfortable.
I'm in the early stages of the training, but I've done enough now, and it is a bit overwhelming, and it is a bit of a fire hose of information. But I feel like, yeah, we've got another 6 months, and I feel very confident that by the time we launch, we'll be well prepared.
So, okay, I'm going to shift gears on you again. You've done all of these things. It wasn't that long ago you were at the bottom of the ocean.
True.
Did you bring back any souvenirs?
No. No.
Nothing we can put in our collection here from the bottom of the ocean?
It was a interesting journey. I actually got approached soon after we announced the AX-1 mission to the ISS by this exploration team who said, look, we have this boat and we have this submersible and we can go to the bottom of the ocean. And we have the only vehicle that actually can do it. It's not tethered on a line, totally self-contained, only 2 people. It's only about, well, it's called a limiting factor. And if you look at it, it looks almost like a sandwich.
Yeah.
But the actual sphere that you're in is made out of titanium, and it's only about 5 feet wide and about 5 feet high. And
it's not much more space than we have.
Oh, no. We would literally be sitting right next to each other. So once I learned more, I signed up for not 1 dive, but 3 in a matter of 6 days. And the reason people say, well, why'd you do that? Because the scientific mission that they have and the serious work they're doing is really groundbreaking. The mothership has some 40 crew on board, 7 of them scientists. The leading, what they call Hadal zone expert, that's below kind of 19,000 feet.
Okay.
Alan Jameson is on that boat. And I said, let Alan design the experiments, and he did. So we did 3 dives. The first one to we're in the Mariana Trench, which is a couple hundred miles off the coast of Guam. The first dive was to 36,000 feet, deepest place, any place in the world. And that took about 12 hours, 4 hours down, 3.5 hours in the bottom, 3.5 hours back up.
Wow.
And then the second one was to Serena Deep, 35,000 feet. We were only the 3rd and 4th humans to ever go there. There's only been 2 other people who have ever gone there. And then we did a 3rd one to an extinct volcano. We went down 25,000 feet. We're the first people who have ever gone to that location. And we collected samples. We saw what's called a Mariana snailfish. We're the first humans to ever see one. They've actually recorded it, but nobody's ever seen one. And that was actually on the 3rd dive that we saw one. So yeah, they tell me it was really worthwhile. I believe it. There's going to be some papers published as a result of it. So.
No pressurization problems coming up and going?
No.
Ears pop a lot?
Yeah, no.
When we were setting this up, one of our team members said, I hope he doesn't get like vertigo from the stars moving. I said, I think we're okay.
No, not really. Yeah, I'm okay doing that.
I think we're okay. So. Tight spaces, moving things, not a problem.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So when you're sitting around the dining room table at night, what kind of conversation do you talk about? the Mariana Trench? You're talking about racing cars? You're talking about
No.
buying real estate? Like, what's the conversation look like?
I don't live in the past.
Okay.
So I'm always about
So you're looking
the
forward.
present and the future.
Okay.
I think it's a real mistake. Hey, it's great to have memories, but I think it's a real mistake to live in the past. And I think, unfortunately, people, middle-aged people get older, many of them don't think about what they're doing today, don't think about what they're doing tomorrow, spend their time talking about the good old days, and that means you're not moving forward. And I don't think that's healthy from a number of aspects.
Awesome. All right. So the next step, so Axiom is actually looking at building their own private space station.
True.
And then, NASA's trying to get people back to the moon and onto Mars with some commercial folks also. SpaceX as well is looking at that. So if you're offered a trip to the moon, you're going to go?
Yes.
You would go. Mars?
Yeah,
would you go to Mars?
Mars, no.
No? Okay, we finally found a
because you're going to be,
Too
depending
long.
upon, well, it's a couple of years minimum.
Yeah.
I would not do that. But if I got a phone call tomorrow and they said, hey, we've got a mission to the moon, we're going to do that in 2024, you're going to be qualified to do it, would you sign me up? I'm there.
Well, if they call me, you can have my spot too.
Okay.
Sorry,
Right.
I want to see other people go, but I don't.
I'm in.
Do you think we'll get our children to Mars? When do you think we're going
Yes.
to Mars? You
Oh,
do?
I think do not underestimate SpaceX.
Okay.
I've spent enough time at their headquarters now. They have audacious goals. They aim high, and they have a mindset that nothing's impossible. And is that in the next 10 years, 15? I don't know. But yeah, in our generation, we're going to see it.
You think so?
I really do. And by the way, I don't have any proprietary information.
Right.
I haven't talked to, Elon and the other people at SpaceX. I don't. But my intuition and observation tells me that it is within their capabilities to do so.
I think probably the child has been born who will go to Mars. I'd like to believe somebody watching this might be like, no,
Well,
I'm
I
going to
think
go.
there's adults.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
somebody
think so?
maybe who's
Okay.
watching this will have that opportunity. Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to mention while you have a captive audience and you're sitting in a beautiful...
Boonshoff is a great place. If you haven't been here, you ought to come. I brought my granddaughter here whenever that was, a few months ago, and she loved it, and it's been a long time since I've been here. And I've forgotten, number one, what a cool place it is, and number two, educationally, how beneficial it is for not only young kids, but middle age, older. It's in my view, a great asset and gem for the Dayton area.
Well, thank you. We did not pay you to say that.
No, I did not, but I mean it. And this planetarium is like unbelievably cool.
Well, you did get to
sit
play in here with Jason Heaton a little while
Oh,
back.
I
got to play a little bit.
Yeah, this is the kind of place that you'd go on your day off just to kind of hang out. So very neat.
Well, if you ever have a day off, you're welcome.
Yeah, I don't have too many days
I
off.
don't expect so.
That's the problem. But yeah, no, great. Thanks for having me.
Taylor, do we have any questions?
We do not have any questions online, but we might have some questions from our audience.
We have a couple of minutes. I can't see, so if there are any.
Your research that they're going to be doing up on the ISS with the Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, does that mean some of it's going to have medical applications?
The answer is yes. Part of what we're doing is with regenerative medicine at Mayo Clinic. They're one of the leading research facilities in the world in that front, and we're going to be doing things relative to that. if you're familiar with senescent cells, there's a world-renowned expert at Mayo Clinic, Dr. Jim Kirkland, and he's been studying that relative to the aging process. So we're actually going to be taking some active cells up there and performing some experiments there. And yeah, that's probably the level of my expertise.
I think that's probably
any more technical,
yeah.
and it's above my pay grade.
Well, and Taylor will get mad at us for taking too long as well. We got one more question. All right.
If you wouldn't mind repeating my question.
Sure.
What is something interesting you can tell me about astronaut training?
Something interesting you can tell Jason about astronaut training so far. You haven't really finished yet, but from what you've done so far, or you're looking forward to.
The safety mechanisms, redundancy, troubleshooting ability, being able to diagnose things both from the Crew Dragon and the ground is phenomenal. And the sophistication but practicality of the Crew Dragon is not to be believed.
That's a great question. Any other questions? All right. Oh, one more. Okay, last question. Okay.
You said one of your draws, you're trying to get
I'll repeat it.
enterprise into space. What do you see as the draw that's going to have in private enterprise out there?
The draw to get private enterprise into space.
So I don't think it's tourism, my personal opinion. But if you look at the International Space Station, which by the way is scheduled to be decommissioned in 2030, and you look at the replacement, which the company that I'm working with, Axiom, has actually got the NASA contract to build the first module, which they are in the process of doing, and it's scheduled to actually go up there and attach, I think, in 2024. The environment there to not only do medical research, but also other types of technical research is unique. And Axiom believes, I think they're correct, even though I'm a layman, that you will have not only companies, but governments from around the world that will want to utilize space for good, positive, commercialized reasons. I mean, use for example, like Elon Musk and the whole satellite system that he's building. If any of you have been to remote parts of the world, I've been fortunate to, for example, in Africa, you know what we got internet, everything else like that. Well, they don't have internet.
Right.
With his satellite system, you could take internet any place in the world. And
game changing.
for people, and for education, especially in very, very remote areas, it's game changing.
Yeah. That's great. All right, I want to say thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank
kind
you.
words, your
Appreciate
time,
it.
and for
Yeah.
everything that you do for Dayton and
Yeah.
beyond.
Happy
We
to do it.
appreciate it.
Happy to do it. On to the next chapter.